This guy was a lady killer, being loved by two beautiful ladies at the same time. After talking, the second girl became jealous of the first girl and directly kissed the guy. However, this scene was accidentally seen by the first girl. She was so heartbroken that she wandered on the street like a soulless person. Knowing that the girl had seen the scene she should not have seen, the young man rushed after her. Who would have thought that on the way, the girl met that guy's brother. Because of heartbreak, the girl fainted into the brother's arms. At that moment, the Grand Chancellor's subordinates suddenly appeared and madly chased them. The soldiers kept shooting arrows towards them the whole way. The two were forced to run to a deep cliff. Seeing no way to escape, they both jumped into the water. The arrow kept plunging into the lake, and the man also fell in a coma. Can they escape this situation together? In a small stream, a few beautiful girls were happily playing and bathing. Little did they know that far away, a group of students were secretly watching their beautiful bodies. Witnessing the beauty made these guys stunning. They didn't forget to draw this wonderful scene. But everything was seen by Chai Kyung passing by. Chai Kyung absolutely hated this depraved behavior, so Chai Kyung intentionally shouted, "How can there be such wonderful scenery in the world?" Hearing that, the group of little girls panicked, picked up their skirts and ran away. The students were so angry as the beautiful scene was ruined. They swore that they would capture and teach Chai Kyung a lesson. After a while of chasing, a guy caught Chai Kyung. The two hugged each other and rolled down the mountain. Since she was born, Chai Kyung has lived in a remote countryside and has a strange ability. She can treat all types of constipation. Chai Kyung leisurely stroked the donkey belly. But a second later, a miraculous scene happened. The donkey sounded very comfortably and let out its waste. This donkey has been constipated for more than half a year, but Chai Kyung could cure it easily. That's why everyone in the small village admired her so much. However, Chai Kyung was humble when she was thanked by the owner of the donkey. For her, this is something she should do to help people. On the way home, Chai Kyung forgot her coat at her friend's house. When Chai Kyung came back, she heard words she shouldn't have heard. The innocent little girl asked her mother, "Didn't you say Chai Kyung was an ugly duckling before? Didn't you say that Chai Kyung was a piteous child abandoned by her parents? Didn't you say we should treat Chai Kyung well?" Her mother didn't say anything but reminded her to keep her words. But the girl still spoke endlessly. Everyone lives happily in Hanyang. And Chai Kyung has to live in this remote place. Why doesn't Chai Kyung live with her parents but to live with her nanny? Hearing the little girl wonder, Chai Kyung was too lazy to explain. She quietly took her coat and slowly walked home. As soon as she returned home, she received a letter from her father. Thinking that she would be back to Hanyang made Chai Kyung overjoyed. Unexpectedly, her father told Chai Kyung to live well in the countryside. The girl was angry and silently blamed her father. She really didn't understand why her father treated her like that. Perhaps her father didn't need this daughter anymore. The nanny secretly took out a letter and gave it to the servant. She told the servant to hand it to her father. Because this thing is worth more than his life. Chai Kyung, standing behind, heard everything. Not long after, the girl wrapped her package and quietly boarded to Hanyang. At her home, her nanny was panicked when she couldn't find Chai Kyung. She couldn't find that important letter, either. Now, after rolling down for a while, the two children regained consciousness. The two opened their eyes and looked at each other awkwardly. At that moment, a bird flew over them. The bird pooped on Chai Kyung's face. But Chai Kyung was unaffected. She wiped her hands on his shirt. But this guy is a clean freak. What she did made him scream crazily. Chai Kyung was scared and confused that she kicked the boy down to the foot of the mountain. The boy's friends heard the scream and rushed over. After pulled up, he immediately chased to catch that girl by any means. Thanks to her intelligence, she escaped his capture. On the stream's other side, there was only the boy screaming angrily. Not long after, they met again at the souvenir shop. As Chai Kyung entered the capital, a bunch of thugs kept an eye on her. At this moment, they were fighting over a toy. The thief secretly stole her money. Chai Kyung couldn't find her money. She could only watch the boy take away her favorite things. The shop owner believes that naive Chai Kyung had all her money stolen by bad guys. Hearing the shop owner say that, Chai Kyung seemed to understand, but she thought that boy took her money for revenge. Chai Kyung screamed in the middle of the market. "If I catch you, I will teach you a lesson." Right now in the palace, it is very tense. The emperor, who was also the boy's older brother, was discussing with officials how to overcome the drought. Everyone thought that the king should pray for rain himself, but the king did not want that. Another official proposed the idea of marriage for luck instead. The king suddenly remembered that his younger brother Li Juk had reached the age of having a family. The king asked the official if he wanted to marry off his daughter to his younger brother. Hearing this, the official knelt down and kept denying. But the king still refused to let him go. "I believe that even if I give you money, you will not dare to refuse my request." Because Li Juk was the queen's child. Since they were young, their father has treated them unfairly. He pampered Li Juk very much but never paid attention to him. When his time ended, the person his father cared about the most was Li Juk. He kept saying that until Li Juk grew up, the emperor would have to give up the throne to his younger brother. Thinking of this, the king went mad. He was so angry that he broke the bowstring. When his anger reached a certain point, he angrily yelled at the servants, "Where is Li Juk? Where is the Grand Prince Li Juk?" Li Juk was on his way back to the palace and accidentally saw his brother. Li Juk looked so happy. But this time his brother came to make trouble. His brother said it seems like he was the king here. Li Juk immediately denied it. "How could that be possible? I'm just a mischievous devil." Seeing Li Juk's friends, he asked them if they could sacrifice themselves for him. The two replied that it was their honor. He continued to ask if he and Li Juk were in a burning room together who they would save first. One child replied, "Of course, to save your highness first, then save the Grand Prince." The other also said, "Even if I can't escape, I will die with the Grand Prince." This statement gave the emperor a reason to punish them. Li Juk knelt down and begged the emperor to forgive his two friends. This is exactly what he wanted. The emperor suggested that they both race together. The final destination is the royal palace. If Li Juk won, he would spare his friend's life. If he won, he would take Li Juk's head. Then the competition started. When Li Juk was riding his horse back to the royal palace, he met Chai Kyung still looking for him. Seeing him leaving in a hurry, Chai Kyung whistled to stop the horse. That made Li Juk fell to the ground. Then she prevented him from getting on the horse. At this moment, he had no time to explain. The emperor also chased him there. Seeing Chai Kyung was on the ground, Li Juk rushed to save her. When he reached the palace, his brother had already arrived. He knelt in front of his brother. His brother pointed the sword at him. Li Juk questioned his brother. "Why are you so cruel?" Li Juk couldn't understand. When he was little, his brother loved him so much, but now he wanted to take his life. This time the emperor was truly determined to take his brother's life. Right when Li Juk accepted his fate, his brother remembered his childhood. He was his younger brother's guardian angel and his younger brother also leaned on him. He really couldn't do this. The queen also came. Thus, Li Juk was saved. The queen told Li Juk that there was no love in the imperial palace. For strengthening the royal power, his brother will eliminate all threats. She reminded him to be more defensive. The emperor outside heard them talking and rushed in. He proposed that Li Juk and the official's daughter get married, and he would have to live in his wife's house. So Li Juk will go to the countryside to live. But he was not allowed to have children. Li Juk didn't understand why he had to do that. But the emperor said that I don't trust you, including everything around you. The emperor mocked that he should be a girl. When the emperor returned his palace, he bursted into anger. Then he went out to relieve his sadness. Chai Kyung mistook the emperor for Li Juk and immediately followed the horse's tracks. When she saw that person, her head was covered by clothes. In panic she fell into the water. Waiting until she stood up, her eyes met a guy with a solid body. She couldn't help but stare at him. The emperor was alert and asked who she was. Then he continued to ask the meaning in her eyes. She went back into the water. However, he was still staring at her. She said she got the wrong person. She relieved him by praising his body and then wished him a happy bath. Finally, she quietly walked up to the shore. Because all her money was stolen, she begged the man to help her. This strange girl made him feel a little interesting, so he dragged her to an inn. Look at the two people in the room. The owner quietly blowing out the candles. After eating dinner, Chai Kyung told the man about how her money was stolen. She was also curious why he went out to take a shower in the middle of the night. He said his body was on fire. My dead father left me and my younger brother to fight for power. She began to comfort him. The air also gradually became warm. Chai Kyung suddenly fainted. The emperor also felt that something was wrong. He was aware that there were problems with the food. While trying to go out, he felt dizzy and collapsed to the floor. After waking up, Chai Kyung discovered that she was locked in a wine warehouse, and the man was lying next to her. She broke a jar and used the broken pieces to cut the rope. The man still showed no signs of waking up. All she could do was find a rickshaw and pull the man towards the capital. Halfway there, Li Yung woke up and saw the girl pulling him. Seeing the girl panicking and crying, Li Yung revealed a smile. Unexpectedly, one day he would be saved by someone else. Looking at the moon in the sky made him forget all his worries. Chai Kyung finally arrived at the city gate. Lee Young had already gotten up and quietly followed behind her. She begged the soldiers to open the gate. Before finishing her sentence, she was exhausted and fainted. Until she woke up, Lee Young was always by her side. He scolded Chai Kyung for being so stupid. Why did she have to suffer like that for him? But the girl innocently said that aren't you my big brother? So we should help each other. This sentence touched the bottom of Lee Young's heart. Returning to the palace, he was furious. How such a dark inn could still exist near the capital? Lee Young then ordered the inn owner to be brought there. He coldly looked at the two people kneeling and then pulled out the sword to execute them directly. Along with that, he dismissed the Hanyang governor and general. At the same time, he warned the officials if similar things happened again, that would be their result. After Chai Kyung woke up, she discovered a left-behind piece of paper written the next time they met. He could grant her one wish. She found it so ridiculous. Chai Kyung had just come home when she overheard her parents' conversation. The queen came to propose on behalf of his son. But incomprehensibly, her parents said bad things about her to the queen. Her parents said she was clumsy and behaved rudely. Chai Kyung felt very upset. Why did parents say about their daughter like that? At this moment, she suddenly heard a familiar voice. Wasn't this the peeping guy? At this time, Lee Juk also noticed that there was movement outside. He pushed the door open and saw the bird poop girl. The parents were also very surprised. Wasn't she in the countryside right now? After changing into a different outfit, to prove that she was not a bad child as her parents said, Chai Kyung officiated dignifiedly to the queen, and spoke softly and modestly. The appearance of a well-educated lady made the queen very satisfied. Seeing the girl's actions, Lee Juk couldn't bear to say she was a rude girl. His mother asked Grand Prince what he meant by this, but Lee Juk said that he was inconvenient to mention. In short, he will not marry her. Then he stood up and left. Chai Kyung suddenly said that she was willing to get married. The parents nearby were also angry. Chai Kyung is sitting and thinking about how to win Lee Juk's heart. She told her parents that no matter what, she had to marry Grand Prince and then stayed here. The nanny, as an experienced person, made suggestions. Definitely don't be angry, act gently. The next day, Chai Kyung dressed beautifully to go to the appointed place. Today she must win Lee Juk's heart, but Lee Juk didn't think so. Their destiny must end today. However, entering the village, he discovered the rice-stealing case. Even if everyone was hungry, they cannot touch the rice offered to the king. Then he recognized the boy who stole money kneeling in the crowd. Just as he was about to relieve the crowd, he remembered his mother's words. He must act carefully and cannot reveal his identity. After arriving, Chai Kyung also recognized that boy. Seeing many people bullying a boy, she didn't think much and rushed forward. However, not only could she not save the boy, but she was also knocked down. Seeing Chai Kyung got hurt, Lee Juk couldn't bear it anymore. He shouted them to wait a moment. Chai Kyung asked, "Grand Prince, what are you going to do?" Hearing Chai Kyung called Lee Juk Grand Prince, the crowd knelt down one by one. Lee Juk used his identity to successfully suppress this matter. Chai Kyung also offered to sell her palanquin to buy rice for the people. Then she friendly asked them to cook rice today. After fully resolving this matter, Chai Kyung gave Lee Juk a thumbs up. To repay their kindness, the boy found his big brother to get the money back to Chai Kyung. Big brother said that if he endured 10 hits, the money would be returned to him, so he actually endured the beating to get Chai Kyung's things back. Chai Kyung received the money bag back and saw the letter still inside. When she learned that the boy was injured for taking back her money bag, Chai Kyung suggested vowing to make friends. Just like that, these three strange people swore that they would be good friends for life. In the palace, Lee Young received news that the previous emperor's censorate was living hiddenly in the countryside. The previous emperor's true secret edict may be in this person's hands, so he told the official after the rain praying ceremony to lead him there. "I must finish off that person myself." The official ordered people to monitor the censorate's every move. If a member of the royal family contacts with a censorate, no matter who they are, they will have to be beheaded. After that, Lee Young himself prayed for the rain. These three people, after becoming friends, are now at Seo No's home praying for rain. Seo No said that only people in the palace know the magic spell to pray for rain. When Lee Juk started to feel strange, Seo No's parents had returned home. He told Chai Kyung and Lee Juk to leave this place immediately. Then he reminded both of them not to come here anymore. After they left, father told Seo No that they could never be friends. On the way home, Lee Juk discovered someone following them. Chai Kyung shyly took off the ring and gave it to Lee Juk. Seeing that he was a bit hesitant, she proactively put the ring on his finger. This also symbolized that Chai Kyung has entrusted her life to Lee Juk. Right at the romantic moment, Seo No was running like crazy towards them. Seo No begged Lee Juk to save his father. When they left Seo No's house in the morning, they were chased by assassins. They ran as fast as they could and hid behind a wooden house. Chai Kyung was a little skeptical as to why someone would dare to assassinate the emperor's younger brother. Lee Juk told her that his status as Grand Prince was the reason. Chai Kyung felt heartbroken for Lee Juk. She held his hand to show that she would always be by his side. Right then, the assassin came here. Footprints on the ground revealed the whereabouts of the two people. Chai Kyung closed his eyes in fear. At this time, it suddenly rained. Everyone ran out cheering. Both were lucky to escape. In the palace, Lee Yung saw that it was actually raining, making him even more certain that he was the true king. He muttered to his father, "Have you seen anything? I am the real king of Joseon." Lee Yung was happy and ordered Chai Kyung's father to meet. The two began to negotiate about the marriage of Chai Kyung and Lee Juk. At this moment, official Myung was outside asking for meeting the emperor. He said there was something important related to Lee Juk to report. He lied that Lee Juk had once searched for the censorate to ask about secret edict. Lee Yung believed that his younger brother was still aiming for his throne. Lee Yung angrily captured the censorate to the palace. He scolded Lee Juk for betraying his trust in him. "If you are truly for the throne, I will absolutely not forgive you." After escaping, the two were sheltering from the rain. Lee Juk offered to take Chai Kyung home. Having gone through so many things, their relationship had also progressed. Knowing that Seo No's father had been arrested in the prison, Lee Juk was extremely calm. He told Chai Kyung to take good care of Seo No and he would go to the palace to find out what was going on. Seo No's father was tortured painfully but still insisted that he was not a censorate. But under Lee Young's force, he still revealed Lee Juk's action. Lee Juk went to find Myung to ask why he captured Mok Jae. Stealing rice basically cannot be punished that severely. But he insisted that this was the lèse-majesty crime. It turns out that when the pre-emperor was still alive, Myung was a dog he raised. Lee Juk was always sitting on his back to ride. This embarrassing scene was seen by official Shin Soo-jun. Seeing Shin Soo-jun and the pre-emperor laughing and talking, he secretly decided to destroy everything that the pre-emperor cared about. To get the answer, the emperor himself interrogated him. Only then did Seo No's father admit that he was really Mok Jae, and said Lee Juk didn't know anything. But the hot-tempered emperor assumed their relationship was not that simple. In his heart, he was extremely resentful. Besides, Seo No told this story to Lee Juk. Lee Juk agreed that no matter what, he would find a way to save his father. He also asked Chai Kyung to take care of Seo No and his grandmother. Chai Kyung then returned home and gave the letter in the money bag to her father. He opened it and saw a prediction written above. If Chai Kyung married a member from royal family, the royal court will be drowned in a blood sea. The next day Lee Juk went to beg the king hoping he could release Mok Jae. Lee Juk naively supposed that Mok Jae was arrested because of the rice theft. However, this made the king angry. Just then, a eunuch intentionally dropped the emperor's royal token and was picked up by Lee Juk. Seeing this token, Juk had a bold thought. At the same time, Chai Kyung went to Seo No's house. Welcoming her was the corpse of Seo No's grandmother. She immediately told this story to Lee Juk. Because he didn't want to put Chai Kyung in danger, Lee Juk intentionally scolded her. He hoped she can retreat on his own. Then he took the token to rescue Mok Jae from prison. As soon as they got out, Chai Kyung and Seo No had brought a rickshaw outside to give them more time to escape. Lee Juk stayed alone to block the way of the soldiers. Chai Kyung and Seo No took Mok Jae to the new district governor and asked him to help get Mok Jae out. Lee Juk was not lucky. He could not escape the soldiers and was taken to the palace to receive interrogation from the emperor. From the Grand Prince, he now demoted to a commoner. Halfway leaving the capital, he unexpectedly met assassins. Lee Juk had no defense and was seriously injured. The emperor's token fell from the assassin's body. "You clearly said to spare my life, so why are you taking back your word now? Is brotherhood in your eyes just a cheap thing? Will Lee Juk be able to escape this dead-end situation?" One day before, to help Chai Kyung and Seo No run away and Lee Juk was arrested and brought to his brother. Faced with Lee Young's questioning, he said all this was to protect his brother's throne. He had a duty to advise Lee Young to avoid harming innocent people. This statement made Lee Young angry and immediately took Lee Juk to prison and charged him with lèse-majesty. However, he was opposed by the officials. Seeing Lee Juk with so many guards, the emperor became even more mad. On the other hand, Chai Kyung heard about this. She ignored her father's objections and rushed into the palace, bumping into Lee Young. At this time, Chai Kyung realized that this man was actually the emperor. Chai Kyung immediately knelt down. Lee Young took her into the palace. Chai Kyung begged the emperor hoping he could spare Lee Juk's life. Lee Juk was also outside asking to meet the emperor. Lee Young told him to come in. When Lee Juk found out, he got mad on Chai Kyung. He intentionally took all the crime on him. Lee Juk said he did not know this girl. Chai Kyung was surprised and didn't understand why Lee Juk denied their relationship, but after she left, Lee Juk knelt down and took full responsibility. He proposed himself to be demoted to a commoner. From now on, he would live in seclusion and not be allowed to go into the capital. Before leaving, Lee Juk said goodbye to the queen. Only now did the queen tell him the truth. Lee Young wanted to harm him because of the pre-emperor's will. Only when he died was Young able to maintain his throne. When Lee Juk left the capital, Chai Kyung came to see him off. The two couldn't bear to be apart. To comfort Chai Kyung, Lee Juk gave her a fish doll in the closet as a keepsake. He also promised that he would definitely come back to find her in the near future. After Lee Juk left, Chai Kyung returned to get the fish doll. Just that Lee Young is also here. Actually, he was stricken in conscience. Chai Kyung wanted to wait Lee Juk return. Unexpectedly, Lee Juk encountered assassins chasing him. After fighting, Juk was seriously injured. The assassin intentionally dropped the king's token to him misunderstand that his brother, Lee Juk, was lucky to survive and vowed that one day he would take revenge. The next day a male body was discovered. Because of the wound on his face, everyone thought it was Lee Juk. Chai Kyung collapsed in pain and cried. 10 years later, a merchant ship carrying tribute encountered a group of robbers. The leader was Lee Juk, who was supposed to die. He now changed his name to Nak Chun. What would he want to do when returning to the capital this time? At court, Lee Young became furious because of the stolen tribute. Feeling sad, he disguised himself and went out to relieve. Unexpectedly, he was surrounded by a group of women. Lee Young had jumped out of the wall. At this moment, he met Chai Kyung again. In emergency, he just could pull her hand along. They hadn't seen each other for many years. The two returned to the old inn where they used to visit. Chai Kyung herself prepared a table of food. Lee Young built a shrine for his deceased mother here. Chai Kyung also prayed for Lee Juk. However, they did not know that Lee Juk was right next to the wall. He looked through the door, noticed Lee Young and Chai Kyung, and he also heard their conversation. Lee Juk felt extremely uncomfortable. When he was about to leave, Chai Kyung saw him. Her eyes widened, not believed that the man in front of her could be so similar to Lee Juk. But he was dead. Because Chai Kyung missed him so much, she couldn't let him leave. She told him to stay and offered him a meal. Lee Juk didn't want to remember the past. When he was about to leave, Chai Kyung stopped him. Lee Young suddenly appeared. He intentionally called Ki-eung his wife and drove Lee Juk away. Afterwards, Chai Kyung returned to the room to clean up the dishes. She accidentally saw the soybeans he didn't eat in another bowl. She asked him if anyone had the same habit as him. Lee Young then explained that Lee Juk also disliked eating soybeans. Chai Kyung immediately went out to check and she saw soybeans on the table. This time she had no doubts. She was certain that was the soul of Lee Juk. Since Lee Juk returned to the capital, he and his friends opened a pawn shop. Lee Juk did so to collect news in the court. Chai Kyung heard that the pawn shop had information about everything, so she brought rice to explore for news. Unexpectedly, the person sitting in the next room was Lee Juk. For Chai Kyung not realizing, he changed his voice while talking. He asked her what she wanted to know. Chai Kyung asked him to find the soul. Lee Juk knew that the soul was himself, but he forgot to change his voice while talking. Chai Kyung realized something was wrong. She immediately hit the wall of the room to go inside. Right at the moment the two looked at each other, the wooden door fell down. Lee Juk quickly used his body to shield Chai Kyung. Her heart suddenly beat very fast. She asked if he was a human or a ghost. Lee Juk didn't know how to answer, then he just kissed her. Chai Kyung just woke up and was continuously beaten by her mother. That's because every day she didn't get home until midnight. The mother decided to quickly marry her daughter off. Chai Kyung panicked and begged her mother made her take back her words. The emperor wanted to use the treasury to assist the people, but was opposed by the officials. Feeling upset, he disguised and went out. This side Chai Kyung, to clarify the truth, went to the pawn shop. At first Lee Juk still wanted to hide but Chai Kyung stopped him. Lee Juk can only say cruel words. He scolded her for being a rude woman, but Chai Kyung still refused to go. Lee Juk compared her to beautiful prostitutes. He said she didn't know how to make up and looked ugly. Even though Chai Kyung still refused to give up, she disguised herself as a man and entered the brothel to ask the girls how to become beautiful. At this moment Lee Young suddenly appeared. The two sat down together. Lee Young prepared for painting. After this, Chai Kyung trying to make up beautifully and went to find Lee Juk, but now they were preparing rob the rich to give to the poor. The group decided to take the snail as a symbol, and disguised as a snail seller to distribute rice to the people. After seeing Chai Kyung, Lee Juk could only tell the others to go ahead. He stayed with her. The two walked and talked. The two went to the place where they swore in. At this time, Chai Kyung identified that this man was Lee Juk. It's just that he lost his mind so he didn't recognize her. Seeing that Lee Juk couldn't remember, Chai Kyung took him to the lakeside where he used to play. Then she took his hand and looked for the ring she gave him before. But she couldn't find it anywhere. Then Lee Juk dragged Chai Kyung to his grave. Seeing the grave, she felt extremely painful. Lee Juk took this opportunity to blame her. She even got the person she loved the most wrong. He told her his name was Nak Chun, not Lee Juk. He also said he had a girl in his heart. He hopes she won't bother him anymore. This broke Chai Kyung's heart. Suddenly, it was raining. She sat alone in front of Lee Juk's grave and burst into tears. Lee Juk returned to the pawn shop. Facing Myung Hai's questioning, he did not beat around the bush. He said that because Lee Young and Chai Kyung were too close, he intentionally angered her. This statement made Myung Hai very jealous. 5 years ago, when saving Lee Juk, Myung Hai fell in love with him. How can she accept that the man she loved had someone else in his heart? Myung Hai directly forced a kiss on Lee Juk. Myung Hai was going to poison Chai Kyung. As long as she died, there will be no one in this world who can compete with her for Lee Juk. A few days ago, Chai Kyung was finally certain that the man she saw was not a ghost. Not even a similar person, but Lee Juk. However, they were chased by Sa Hong's subordinates. Seeing they were coming closed, Lee Juk could only drag Chai Kyung to run deep into the forest. Then he was hit by an arrow. Chai Kyung's hand was also injured. Chai Kyung pulled Lee Juk to hide in the cave, and tore the dress to bandage him. Because the arrow was poisonous, Chai Kyung picked up some herbs and put them on his wound. Sa Hong's subordinates searched everywhere. Finally, at dawn, Chai Kyung was caught while washing a bloodied cloth by the stream. To capture Lee Juk, the leader forced her to take them to find him. Until they reached the cliff did they react. Chai Kyung still fooled them around. Sa Hong also arrived there. Chai Kyung refused to say a word, so he decided to send her to prison. Myung Hai's group found Lee Juk. To prevent him from going to save Chai Kyung, they intentionally locked him up. After knowing this, Lee Young was extremely angry. He interrogated Chai Kyung himself, but she refused to say anything. What made him feel strange was that during this crucial situation, the queen was still very calm. Combined with recent events, Lee Young feels that this is definitely not a coincidence. The only answer was that the robber, according to Sa Hong's words, was Lee Juk. Lee Young put pressure on him to capture Lee Juk. Now, Lee Juk discovered that he was captured by his people. Therefore, he quickly escaped to save her. However, the prison was surrounded by soldiers. He basically couldn't do anything. Wait until evening. Lee Juk wanted to take this opportunity to save her. However, Myung Hai's group forcibly dragged him away. After returning, Myung Hai blamed him for taking a risk. Not only could he not save her, but all the people around him, including the queen, would also implicate. Lee Juk knew that his responsibility was great and could only temporarily stop the action. The next day, another girl was also brought to prison. This person was Myung Hai. Chai Kyung did not know her and even gave her a mat to cover. Myung Hai intentionally told Chai Kyung everything she knew. Unexpectedly, Chai Kyung said, to protect the person she loved the most, she was not afraid anything. Although Myung Hai was a little touched, she clearly knew her duty. If Chai Kyung didn't disappear, Lee Juk would put him in danger. At midnight, when Chai Kyung fell asleep, Myung Hai prepared to poison her. This girl named Chai Kyung was so pathetic. At this time she was hung on the capital gate and was barely breathing. Her tears had also dried up. Would the person she misses day and night come? Last night she was almost harmed. Luckily, at that moment, Seo No disguised himself as a guard and went to prison to stop it. However, not long after, she was taken away by Sa Hong's subordinates and hung on the gate. It turned out that he wanted to use Chai Kyung to force Lee Juk to reveal himself. Lee Juk was at the pawn shop inventorying the tribute list. Suddenly the wound hurt. Only then did he remember that the arrow was poisonous. However, at that time Chai Kyung was also injured in her arm. If he didn't go to save her, her life would be in danger. Lee Juk found a doctor and told him to quickly prepare the medicine. However, the doctor said that it would take 2 days to prepare the medicine. Chai Kyung certainly couldn't resist for 2 more days. Lee Jok had no choice but to go to Lee Young's place. Lee Juk shot an letter arrow towards his brother. Above was written, I heard that Chai Kyung is about to die. She is currently hung on the city gate. Thanks for taking her life. Realizing something was wrong, Lee Young rode his horse towards the city gate. Chai Kyung thought the coming was Lee Juk. She cried and told him not to come here. Until he got closer did she know it was Lee Young. Seeing Chai Kyung's weak appearance, Lee Young suddenly exploded in anger. He immediately ordered his subordinates to let Chai Kyung go down and then take her to the royal doctor. The doctor said that luckily she was brought there in time, otherwise she would have died. After that, Lee Yung himself gave medicine to Chai Kyung. While he was out, Lee Jae-uk hiding outside the window went inside. He sadly looked at Chai Kyung and expressed his longing. Then put the ring she gave him on her neck. Lee Yung outside noticed there was movement and immediately went inside to check. Luckily, Lee Juk hid under the bed and was not discovered. After this incident, Lee Yung scolded Sa Hong rudely. At the same time, he warned him that if Chai Kyung was injured again, he would be beheaded. Thanks to the doctor's treatment, Chai Kyung's condition became better. After waking up, she thought about Lee Juk again. While she was in a coma, it seemed she saw him coming. But this place is strictly guarded. How can he come here? It wasn't until Chai Kyung saw the ring on her neck that she realized Lee Juk had indeed been here before. To exonerate Chai Kyung, Lee Yung gathered the officials to discuss. Unexpectedly, he was opposed by everyone. Last night a lot of officials were robbed. The thief just left behind a piece of paper. It was clear that this thief and the tribute robber were the same person. Lee Yung got angry. The next day, Chai Kyung's father took off his official uniform and knelt in front of the Great Hall to take the guilt for his daughter. After knowing that, Chai Kyung immediately rushed in and knelt down next to her father. She begged Lee Yung to let her bear all the charges. Right then, a man appeared in front of the palace door. Chai Kyung seemed to have lost her sense of shame. In daylight, she dared to open Lee Jae-uk's shirt. But when she saw his wound, she suddenly became stunned, and tears just kept flowing. She heartbrokenly asked him how he could return. A few days ago Lee Juk appeared and admitted that he was still alive. Lee Yung couldn't do anything but hugged his brother, and restored his status as Grand Prince. In the court, Lee Juk said that he knew who the real bandits were. Then he took out a list of the officials hiding tributes for personal gain. Lee Juk successfully shook off all doubts. Sa Hong was worried that everything would be exposed and could only say he would definitely investigate this matter. After that, Lee Juk specially went to pay his respects to the queen. The queen scolded him to reveal his identity for a woman. Myung Hai and her father Park Won-jong were both on the queen's side. She originally wanted to help Lee Juk continue to hide, but he thought that Lee Yung knew he was alive. Then if he continued to hide, it would be even more dangerous. He then proposed to marry Chai Kyung to remove Lee Yung was from the throne. Just then, Lee Yung arrived. They can only temporarily stop discussing. A moment later, Lee Yung told Lee Juk to go to a place and wait for him there. At that time, they could drink together. Lee Yung intentionally pranked Lee Juk and didn't come until it was dark. After drinking, Lee Jae-uk tried to ask Lee Yung to allow him to marry Chai Kyung. Lee Yung also had feelings for Chai Kyung, so he did not agree. He pretended to be drunk and left. Father brought the money bag from that year to show Chai Kyung. This is the reason why she was raised in countryside when she was little. Above was the prediction left by Great Master. If she married one from the royal family, it would definitely cause the court and even her family to drown in a blood sea. This prediction made Chai Kyung painful, so she and Lee Jae-uk will no longer be able to be together. Right then, Lee Jae-uk came to find her. Even though Chai Kyung really wanted to be by his side, she still chased him away. Lee Jae-uk still didn't give up. The next day he called her out again. When the two went to the store, Lee Juk took out a book. He said this book was to record everything about her. Chai Kyung was curious and wanted to grab it, but she wasn't careful and tore his shirt. There were many scars on his body. Chai Kyung was heartbroken. She blew out the candle and touched the wounds with her hands. After touching it, she burst into tears. Thinking of Lee Juk having to endure so much hardship, her heart was broken. On the way home Lee Juk told her, actually their childhood friend Seo No was also at the store. Chai Kyung was extremely happy. She wanted to meet him right away. This man really went mad. He kept strangling the woman. It wasn't until the woman gonna die that he let go. He is King Lee Young of Joseon. But why did he do that? This morning Lee Young went to Chai Kyung's house to allow them to marry. After Lee Young left, Chai Kyung told this story to her parents. The father lamented that the prediction would still happen, but their conversation was heard by Lee Juk standing outside. He angrily opened the door and questioned Chai Kyung. Did she give up on their love because of a prediction? At this time, Chai Kyung was also very confused. She didn't know how to respond. On this side, Lee Young has also returned to the palace. Thinking about the times he was together with Chai Kyung, his heart was broken. At this time, his concubine came to comfort him, but was unexpectedly strangled by him. The next day, Lee Young summoned the queen and Chai Kyung's father. He asked them what they thought about the marriage. Unexpectedly, the queen quickly agreed. Her father didn't know what to do other than accept. According to the agreement, Chai Kyung went to the place where they made friends to meet Lee Juk and Seo No. But on the way, she fell asleep. The two saw her sleeping so soundly, so they didn't wake her up. When Chai Kyung woke up, she realized that Seo No was the one who disguised herself as a guard that day. She was extremely happy. She asked how his father was doing now. Seo No said his father's whereabouts was unknown after being rescued. Chai Kyung then told Lee Juk that she was actually not afraid of the prediction. She was just worried that he would be in trouble. After sending Chai Kyung home, Lee Juk took down the ring from her neck. Then he put it on his finger. The two just promised, no matter what happens, we will always be together and never leave. That evening, Park Won-jong's subordinates found Sa Hong's secret treasure. He did not inform Lee Juk but made the decision himself. He decided to let Myung Hai's group steal all the treasures from the warehouse. Sa Hong had intentionally let people disguised as bandits to steal all the officials' items. He left a note just to slander other. This time, Park Won-jong wanted to use the name of the snail lady to return the treasure to its owner. Unexpectedly, this action was discovered by Sa Hong's subordinates. His people silently followed them to the store. After receiving the news, Sa Hong immediately brought people over. Luckily, Lee Jae-uk and Park Won-jong's group were able to escape. Sa Hong's subordinates felt that Seo No was familiar. They asked if he knew them. Seo No initially denied it. Right then, Chai Kyung came here. To avoid making attention, Sa Hong and his subordinates left first. This Emperor Lee Young was not reliable at all. He dared to hug his younger brother's woman, even wanted to kiss her. But he suddenly stopped. Then what he said surprised her. He told her to act as a secret agent and report on Lee Juk's every move. If Lee Juk had strange thoughts or actions, immediately report it to him. What Lee Juk did were all considered treason, and all of this was witnessed by Lee Juk standing not far away. Even though he was angry, that was the king and he could do nothing. Chai Kyung agreed with Lee Young's request, and affirmed that Lee Jae-uk absolutely could not have treasonous thoughts. She will prove it to him, so that the two of them can clear up their misunderstandings. The next day in the court, the officials reported that all the stolen items were returned by the snail lady. Sa Hong lied that perhaps this thief was afraid of being punished, so they brought it back. But the officials did not think so. Lee Young was very curious about this snail lady. He asked the officials about things related to this girl. After asking, he found out that wherever there was famine, the snail lady would donate rice to the people of that place and leave behind a snail. This is also the reason why there is the name Snail Lady. After that, Lee Young met Sa Hong. He guessed that this snail lady was actually just a trick of Lee Juk. Lee Young then ordered Sa Hong to immediately find their lair, and he disguised himself as a civilian and went to the pawn shop. When he was exploring around, Myung Hai and her father came in. Both were so scared that they didn't dare breathe. Myung Hai was nervous and accidentally told the story about saving Lee Juk that year. Lee Young immediately thought that the body brought back was probably done by Myung Hai. However, he did not impose the guilt and just assigned his subordinates to monitor the people in the store. After returning to the palace, Lee Young immediately prepared the wedding room for Lee Jae-uk and Chai Kyung. On the surface, it was the newlywed gift, but in fact, it was for monitoring the two of them. At the same time, Lee Young also ordered Chai Kyung to report Lee Juk's actions every day. At the same time, Myung Hai was extremely sad because of Lee Juk's marriage and pulled Seo No out for drinks. Waking up in the middle of the night, she received a letter for Seo No. Myung Hai did not wake him up, but went to the location on the paper. Tomorrow was the big wedding. Lee Juk went to Chai Kyung's room in the middle of the night and said he wanted to give her a gift. Surprisingly, it was a hug and kiss. On the wedding day, Chai Kyung wore the most beautiful outfit. She applied makeup and happily waited for Lee Juk. That's also when Lee Juk learned that Myung Hai was looking for Seo No's father. He became worried. Because Seo No's father was soon arranged in a house far away, how can he send a letter to Seo No? This might be a trap. Therefore, Lee Juk's group immediately chased to find. Lee Young and Sa Hong's subordinates were seen ambushing all sides. The two sides fought. Lee Young was accidentally hit by an arrow. Lee Juk's hand was also hit by an arrow. Both were seriously injured. Right when Sa Hong was about to chase, Lee Young stopped them. Look what this groom was doing at the ceremony. Being late on his wedding day, his arm was still bleeding. This scared the bride to tears. Lee Young and Lee Juk had a fight. Though they acted normally, they soon became rivals. On the wedding day, Sa Hong knew that Seo No would definitely return to confirm his father's safety. He sent his subordinates to follow him. Seo No didn't know someone was following him. After returning to the store, he brought his father's farewell letter to Lee Juk. After reading the letter, Lee Juk felt something wrong. He had a bad feeling for the future. Seo No's father was knocked unconscious by Sa Hong's subordinates. On this side, Lee Young gave a box of herbs to Chai Kyung. He also told her that Lee Juk would often get injured in the future. After hearing this, Chai Kyung was extremely worried. That night, she stayed awake to wait for Lee Juk. At first, Lee Juk still lied. Then Chai Kyung directly exposed his wound. She told him even though it wasn't the wound he had before. No matter what he said, she would believe it. Sa Hong took Seo No's father to prison for interrogation. Lee Young tortured him crazily. Being threatened, Mark Jae said the pre-emperor's will was engraved on the woman's body, but he didn't know who it was. Then, Lee Young still killed him. After Chai Kyung married Lee Juk, she was worried what Lee Young said will be true. To find out, Chai Kyung specifically brought alcohol to the pawn shop to make everyone here drunk. Lee Juk went out to buy more alcohol while Chai Kyung took the chance to check around the shop. She then felt regretful. All of these were witnessed by Lee Juk standing outside. He comforted her and agreed to live peacefully in their hometown. Because of the queen, the two hadn't had their consummation. When they were about to have a sweet night was he informed to go to the shop. Seo No's father's body was thrown outside the store. That night Lee Juk didn't return home. Chai Kyung then discovered a terrifying secret. The emperor threatened his sister-in-law with a sword. Lee Juk went to stop him, but they carelessly injured Chai Kyung. What happened between the two of them? 2 days ago Chai Kyung found out what Lee Young said about Lee Juk's treason plan was true. Right then Lee Juk and his group returned to the store. Before being discovered, Chai Kyung was able to sneak away. But she didn't know that she had been discovered by Lee Juk. Until the others left, Chai Kyung went out like a soulless person. She intended to tell Lee Young, but seeing Lee Young took lives of 2 officials cruelly, she worried about Lee Juk encountering the same situation. Chai Kyung was so weak that she fainted right seeing Lee Juk. She was in a coma all night, and Lee Juk took good care of her. At the same time, Lee Young was waiting for her report. But there was no news. He was extremely disappointed. Chai Kyung woke up at midnight. She asked Lee Juk why he hid her everything and said she would always stand by his side. Lee Juk was extremely moved. The next morning, Chai Kyung came alone to beg Lee Young. She still decided to give it a try no matter what would happen. Lee Young was so angry. Chai Kyung begged Lee Young to forgive Lee Juk. She proposed him to let them return to the countryside to live, so he no longer had to worry about Lee Juk. However, compared to Lee Juk's betrayal, Lee Young could not accept the woman he loved leaving him. Chai Kyung still did not realize Lee Young's feelings for her. Chai Kyung knelt and begged. This angered Lee Young even more. He placed a sword on her shoulder. Fortunately, Lee Juk came in time and brought injured Chai Kyung home. After this, Chai Kyung carefully thought about Lee Young's words. She alone actually digged up the pre-emperor's wool under an old tree. She revealed the scar which was made to erase the pre-emperor's wool from her back. To protect him, she even injured herself. Lee Juk bursted into tears. What should he do with all the people helping him to compete for the throne? The day before, Myung Hai came to be Chai Kyung's maid made Lee Juk worried. He took Chai Kyung to her mother's house to stay for a few days. Then he went to question the queen why she did that. She said that she only believed Myung Hai. Chai Kyung was just a tool to help him compete for the throne. Lee Juk was angry, then left. When Chai Kyung was about to take a shower, her maid cautiously checked on Myung Hai. She came to check the noise outsides and saw Lee Juk scolding Myung Hai. Their conversation terrified her. Lately, the queen feverishly wanted Lee Juk and Chai Kyung to finish the wedding night. Lee Young was suspicious that the wool might be on Chai Kyung's body. That night, Chai Kyung revealed the wound on her back. Only then did Lee Juk know. Even if she harmed herself, she didn't expose the pre-emperor's will. Lee Juk couldn't bear it and agreed to live in seclusion. Lee Jae-op's subordinates took advantage of the late night to give food to poor people. Chai Kyung's father discovered this. He advised him to stop or he would have to leave his daughter. Lee Juk was heartbroken. Seo No told him the story of Myung Hae poisoning Chai Kyung in prison. Lee Juk had a bad feeling, then returned home, to find out that Chai Kyung was taken away by Lee Young. Soon her father was summoned. Lee Young asked him if he knew that Chai Kyung had the pre-emperor's wool on her body. He continuously denied. Chai Kyung was brought into the Great Hall. He told his consort to take off her clothes in front of everyone. Chai Kyung didn't accept, and did it herself. Right then, Lee Juk burst into the Great Hall. He protected Chai Kyung, then took out the pre-emperor's will. This emperor woke up in the middle of the night, and slashed crazily. Lee Young showed an excited expression while killing a servant. What made him like this? The story still has to start one day ago. Lee Juk read the pre-emperor's will in front of the officials. However, what surprised everyone was that he did not intend to take back the throne. Instead, he proactively gave up the throne and chose to live in seclusion with Chai Kyung. Seeing them leaving, Lee Young felt extremely uncomfortable. He couldn't understand why Chai Kyung didn't choose him. He went crazy. Lee Juk's choice made the queen extremely sad. He gave up everything in the last minute, but he said that was not the life he wanted to live. Then, he just wanted to live with his wife until the end of his life. Then he took Chai Kyung to an inn. They had a meal like normal people. Then Lee Juk pushed Chai Kyung to the floor and did what they hadn't done yet. While the two were in their sweet moment, Lee Young was living in torment. He drank a lot of alcohol, and told the queen he didn't want to be king anymore. He wanted to marry Chai Kyung, but he couldn't. The queen took him back to rest. Lee Young was awakened by a nightmare at midnight. He continued to drink alcohol and saw the pre-emperor coming to him. Lee Young was afraid and slashed his sword crazily. The next morning, Lee Juk saw Chai Kyung off at the gate and went to the store. His teammates were extremely angry. They sacrificed so much, but he gave up so easily. Lee Juk knelt down to apologize to everyone. Lee Juk did so for both his wife and his brother. Seo No didn't agree and said that Lee Young is a useless person who will make people miserable. He would still lead everyone to continue with the snail plan, because this was his mission. On this side, Myung Hae made plans to force him to realize his true wish. That night, Park Won-jong went to look for Sa Hong. Lee Young became suspicious of Chai Kyung's father's intentions. He forced him to go catch the snail lady. Myung Hae was in charge of taking Lee Juk out of the store. Seeing her tense expression, Lee Juk returned and discovered that the soldiers surrounded around the store. Lee Juk notified them to quickly leave, but Chai Kyung's father suddenly appeared. Of course, he wouldn't arrest Lee Juk. However, even greater challenges await them. For taking the blame for Lee Juk, Seo No was beheaded in front of the people. Witnessing this scene made Lee Juk realize Lee Young had no intention of letting him go. It was all pre-calculated. A few days ago Sa Hong caught Chai Kyung's father. Chai Kyung went to the Great Hall to beg Lee Young to let them return to their hometown to live. Then Lee Young immediately ordered her father to continue investigating clues about the snail lady. To make the bandits appear, he allowed to arrest all the people receiving the snail lady's rice. He became more and more cruel. Lee Juk and Chai Kyung prepared to leave the capital. The two decided not to care about the royal power anymore. Just like that, live a peaceful life. When they left, her father had already interrogated the people captured in the prison. He asked them if they knew the snail lady, but he didn't receive the answer. Then Sa Hong used severe punishment like beheading them outsides. Seo No couldn't sit still anymore. He knew that if no one admitted the guilt, Li Ying would still kill the innocent. Seo No decided to take all the blame. Lee Juk and Chai Kyung had just heard about this at the inn. The two couldn't sleep all night. While sewing Lee Juk's shirt, Chai Kyung couldn't help but ask him that if nothing couldn't stop him from coming back to save people. Though he didn't reply, she understood what he meant, so she suggested that they return together. That night, Myung-hae disguised and went to the prison. Seeing Seo No covered in blood made Myung-hae painful. She asked him if it's worth to save those people, but Seo No couldn't let them take the punishment for the snail lady. The next day Seo No was taken to be beheaded. Chai Kyung's father was the executioner. Lee Juk and Chai Kyung came late to change the situation. Lee Young snatched the sword from Lee Juk to stab himself. His crazy action were just to kill Lee Juk. After witnessing Seo No being executed, he rushed to question Lee Young and entered the trap. Then he was arrested for treason. Chai Kyung was also locked in the palace. Knowing this made the queen so anxious, but she didn't know what to do. The officials convinced Lee Young to spare Lee Juk's life, but Lee Young didn't want to listen. He just asked for Chai Kyung's opinion. Chai Kyung knew that this time Lee Young wouldn't spare them easily. She begged to be let go. Chai Kyung agreed to be a supervisor next to Lee Juk to prevent him from committing treason. Lee Young agreed with her the condition to cut Lee Juk's leg tendons. Lee Young intentionally let Chai Kyung witness his execution. He was very satisfied with this outcome. Chai Kyung was given lots of jewels, but she only cared about Lee Juk. Lee Juk finally woke up. Before executing, the queen let Park Won-jong bribe people not to cut his leg tendons. That night, the queen didn't sleep. Just as Lee Young walked in, the queen couldn't help to tell everything. Lee Young was extremely angry and wanted to make his mother the queen. Lee Young arrested who slandered his mother and beat them to death in the Great Hall. Lee Juk's leg gradually recovered, and Lee Young also sent people to check. Lee Juk always used crutches to walk to deceive Lee Young. He then informed Park Won-jong to lie that there was a rebel army rising. In reality, the rebel army were all innocent people detained by Lee Young. Lee Juk released them all. His purpose was to distract the imperial army. The officials surrendered one after another. Sa Hong also approved the petition himself without reporting to the emperor. Lee Young was still in a daze, unaware of the approaching danger. Less than 2 days later, the number of people in Lee Juk's assembled troop was much larger than that of the Imperial Guard. Then his troop robbed the tribute guarded team and changed into their clothes to blend into the palace. This would be the final battle between Lee Juk and Lee Young. Lee Juk had just won and became the new emperor of Joseon. But Chai Kyung discovered her parents had passed away. One day ago, Lee Juk's troops successfully sneak into the palace. First he asked Chai Kyung to hide away with her parents, then he would fight for the throne. After that, Lee Young came to ask Chai Kyung to go hunting with him. If so, Lee Juk's plan will be ruined. Chai Kyung could only proactively invite Lee Young to see the moon together. Lee Young thought she had finally accepted him. The two went to the lakeside. Chai Kyung knew that night might be their last meeting. She shed tears for the past. Lee Young kindly asked her what was wrong. Chai Kyung replied that she was thinking of an old big brother. Unfortunately, the two cannot return now. Right then, Lee Young was reported that rebel army had stormed in. But he didn't take her life. He locked Chai Kyung and the queen in the Forbidden Palace. Lee Young dared to kill them if Lee Juk rebelled. Lee Juk went to persuade the general to sell out Lee Young and join his side. He knew that Lee Young was unable to rule the country, so he immediately agreed. Then he took Lee Juk to Lee Young's palace. Seeing Lee Juk, Lee Young was so surprised, but he didn't step back. Just like that, the two brothers started a fierce battle. Gradually, Lee Young became weak, and Lee Juk placed the sword on his neck. But in the end, Li Juk still couldn't take his life. Instead, he ordered to take his brother away. Everything finally ended. Li Juk believed that they would live happily in the future. After that, Park Won-jong came to arrest Sa Hong. Park Won-jong was bribed and released him. Only when he thought he was safe was he betrayed by his subordinate. Myung-hae threatened him to betray Sa Hong. The next day, the officials met the queen, and everyone agreed to let Li Juk take the throne. Li Juk became the new emperor of the Joseon Dynasty. He didn't kill Li Yung but exiled he and his family far away. But unexpectedly, Chae Kyung learned that her parents were murdered. She immediately returned home. What surprised her more was that her father was holding a snail in his hand. Did Li Juk kill her parents? Li Juk had just become the emperor, but Chae Kyung dared to assassinate him. She asked if Li Juk killed her parent. Although Li Juk did not know anything, it was certain that this was done to protect him. Chae Kyung looked at the person she loved kneeling down. She shed tears and left. After considering, she realized that Li Juk would not do such a thing. There might be someone intentionally ruined their relationship. She treated his wound well and encouraged him to become a good king to protect their love. After investigating, Li Juk discovered that the perpetrator was Park Won-jong. He decided to deprive him of all his rights and official status. This made him feel hatred in his heart. Park Won-jong quietly vowed that he must make Chae Kyung leave Li Juk. When Li Juk wanted to appoint Chae Kyung as his primary wife, Park Won-jong and others began to protest. Li Juk didn't care about their objection, and just did what he wanted to do. Myung-hae was told not to let Chae Kyung become the primary consort. Then these people were sent to injure Li Yung severely, and lied to him that they would kill him and Chae Kyung's family. Despite his wound, Li Yung went to find Chae Kyung. When Chae Kyung returned home, Li Yung suddenly appeared in her room. She helped him bandage. Li Yung said he encountered assassins, and their target was not only him, but also Chae Kyung. Right then, Park Won-jong went to Chae Kyung's house to check up. Only now did Li Yung realize he had fallen into a trap. It would be difficult to keep his life, but Li Yung didn't want to leave Chae Kyung alone. Chae Kyung could only block Park Won-jong's way. How could he let go so easily? Li Yung suddenly pretended to take Chae Kyung hostage. The two led other to the back door. Li Yung told her to go away because the person Park Won-jong wants to kill was her. But she refused and stayed there. Then Park Won-jong sent her to prison and accused her of adultery. However, she admitted guilt in the Great Hall. Contrast to her dream of their happy lives in the future, she was going to be executed. Luckily, Li Juk came in time to save her. The night before, Myung-hae intentionally revealed Park Won-jong's plan to Li Juk. In the Great Hall, Li Juk personally interrogated the perpetrator and found out Park Won-jong was the ringleader. Li Juk's power was not strong enough to accuse him. After this, Park Won-jong no longer trusted Myung-hae. He chased her away and quietly gathered the snail lady's people. He told everyone that King Li Juk was not a good emperor. Myung-hae felt extremely worried. She tried to dissuade him to stop. He didn't care at all, and even secretly adopted a daughter. He was ambitious to become the emperor's father-in-law. After many challenges, Chae Kyung thought carefully and decided to leave Li Juk. Li Juk knew that their love could not withstand this chaotic court. He had no choice but to agree with her request. The next day, Li Juk brought out the evidence of Park Won-jong's countless crimes in front of everyone. But Park Won-jong still denied his crime. Unexpectedly, Myung-hae suddenly appeared as a witness. This time Park Won-jong's done. Even though he returned Chae Kyung's innocence, Li Juk still could not prevent them from separating. A few days later, seriously injured Li Yung sent his words to the king that Chai Kyung did not help him escape. Li Juk was deeply moved. He went to see his brother again. The brothers were finally able to put aside the hatred. After that, Li Yung was seriously ill and passed away. Finishing his brother's funeral, Li Juk went to see Chai Kyung once. But Chai Kyung refused to return. When Li Juk had to leave, she ran to him and they hugged each other. After that, the two seemed to return to a time when they were once happy. But it was Li Juk's dream. It wasn't until 38 years later when they met again.